We are going to continue eating. Thank you all very much. And I'm going to introduce our speaker today and our program. Every now and then we have a day like this where we have several kind of different levels of things. But we are going to do two things today in particular. One is to let Autumn Weil speak to us about her experience at International Convention. And then after that I'm going to introduce Karen Yagerhofer to also talk about International Convention. And then those of us who have been to International Convention will be making some comments too about this through the end of the program. Autumn Weil is a development person who has specialized in annual fund and other things, but she has a lot of background in the state of Indiana and other things that she's done before she came to the fundraising world here. And every year, the national chapter allows each chapter to find one outstanding young professional, and they give them a free a sponsorship to the convention. That's fine and dandy. They still have to get there, and so our chapter also supports this person, at least partially, with another grant to cover some travel and hotel and that sort of thing. But Autumn won that this year, and so she went to International Convention, and I would like her to come and present to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Let me just get this fired up. We'll see if it works. Okay, looks like you can. Can you see it?
A little bit anyway.
Well, you won't need to follow it too much, and if you have specific questions afterwards, I'm happy to talk with you about it. First, I want to reiterate something Alex said. The AFP International Conference would not have been achievable for me if it wasn't for the Chamberlain Scholarship, but also for what this chapter does, which is unique to this chapter. Not every chapter gives additional money. And I can tell you, as far as conferences go, it was top-notch, 3-day, full impact, expert after expert. I mean, experts like Gail Perry, Tom Ahern, Adrian Sargent, I could go on and on. Tammy Zonker, which I was thrilled to meet because I've worked with her in the past. So you get your money's worth, even when you can pay. But I couldn't, and I was very honest with the committee about my situation. And kind of what attracted me to it in the first place was I got a postcard about it from AFP International, and Whoopi Goldberg was the headliner. Now, whether you agree with Whoopi Goldberg or not, politically, philanthropically, or even her comedy, she is a very interesting woman in the course of our history, especially philanthropy. And she attributes her success to philanthropists who came alongside her and provided her with opportunities to get out of the ghetto of Bronx, New York. That and the strength of her mother. And one of the things Whoopi says about philanthropy is that we're all here for a reason. I believe a bit of the reason is to throw little torches out to lead people through the dark. My torch at the time of the scholarship application was completely depleted. I was on the verge of burnout after 8 years of doing this. I had nothing else to give. And at the time, I was supervising a staff of 5. So I knew I needed to do something in order to give back to them. So I applied, and I was so grateful to receive it. On top of that, Sharon Owen roommated with me. So between both scholarships and Sharon rooming with me, the conference cost me $250 out of pocket. It was an amazing experience and opportunity.
Is Sharon the most positive human being?
Oh my goodness. Yes, and bless her heart, I had such such a horrible sinus infection, and she just mothered me, and it was wonderful. In fact, don't look too closely. It looks like I had a really good night the night before, but I was just really not feeling well. These are all the Chamberlain Scholars, so all of us that were chosen through international or approved through our chapters for international. And not only that, but I mean, gosh, imagine a room full of, what, 30,000 attendees who are your colleagues and who will network with you and who you will exchange business cards with, and they will allow you to call them and talk to them and be your cheerleader. It was amazing. My goal, or my passion in fundraising, like Alex says, is annual funds. And let me tell you why. I truly believe that the annual fund is the foundation of any strong nonprofit organization. Grants, special events, major gifts, they all have a very important role. But if you cannot sustain yourself through annual fund, then all of those other things don't matter, because you can't build program capacity if your annual fund isn't supporting your administrative needs. So with that in mind, I wanted to learn practical tools that I could implement immediately and for absolutely no cost. That was essential. I knew that if I took things back to where I was working at the time and it cost money, they would say absolutely not. So it had to be free. Also, Alex told me before I went, no matter what sessions you think you might want to go to, be sure you pay attention to the people's names who are going to present and go to the ones that you recognize as national leaders. So I did do that and got in front of Adrian Sargent for the first time, was able to listen to Tom for the second time because I did do a webinar with him. Wayne Olson was there. And if you can imagine a room this size, packed to the grill with people standing next to each other like this because they just want to hear what they have to say. I mean, that's what people on the floor. God forbid there's ever a fire at one of those things. So it was pretty amazing to be part of that the first time and to see just how much people wanted to absorb the knowledge that was available to them. So what did I learn? Well, I want to share that with you. Would you mind seeing my clicker?
Oh, yeah, I'm really. Oh, here we go.
Might be my clicker.
Maybe you want to get Jim to do that.
Save me, Linda.
You're safe. So I wanted to not only share with you my experience as far as the fun and fuzzy, but really my takeaways. So that if you need to implement free, impactful takeaways, you can do that after leaving here today. And I'm sure Karen will have more to add to it. But one of the sessions I went to was how to build a highly successful monthly giving program. And some of the things that, I mean, it was almost like a no-brainer when they said it. I just needed somebody to say it. And sometimes we're there professionally. You know, first look who's giving to your organization regularly. Do you have somebody giving you $25 2 or 3 times a year? If you do, call them. Call them and give them an opportunity to sustain your organization. Give them an opportunity to carry that torch. Ask them to give monthly. Their lifetime value, and these are all studies these wonderful people have done, increases 1,000%. So you can't afford not to do these things. Their annual giving will increase 2 to 3 times, and after a decade, 50% of the donors will still remain. That is huge because retention on an annual basis is 50%. So for example, they gave this $100 a year donor, so they're giving you $50 twice a year when you send out mailings. If you call them and ask them to give you $25 a month instead, they will most likely do it, and now you've just increased their gift to $300. They did find through their studies that EFT donors have a higher retention rate than credit card donors, And the reason is because of credit card fraud. If they have to cancel their credit card because it's been hacked, then you're not going to get your money anymore. So
what is EFT?
EFT is electronic fund transfer, so transferring it directly out of their checking account. Okay, next. I have no idea what that noise is. Somebody's dying. Building donor loyalty. If you have never heard of Adrian Sargent, which I hadn't, Google him. Google him like on your way home, but before you're driving. Okay? He is an amazing man. I will tell you, he is very much an academic. So his books, I mean, his book is a textbook that many colleges use that's like this thick and costs $120, but it will cover everything you ever need to know about fundraising. 50% of donors will not give.
Borrow it from Nancy, she said.
You have it. I love to borrow.
I paid $100.
Love to borrow. His thing is we need to determine the lifetime value of our donors. We need to look at our loyal donors, and I will tell you, he does not define loyal donors the same as defining major donors. That's really important. If you have a major donor and give you $50,000 1 year, that is awesome. But if you have a loyal donor that gives you $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 for 2 decades, their lifetime value is greater. So look at those people and look at their characteristics and recruit more people like them. Steward your donors based on their potential giving, not what they're currently giving. And if you do not use a research component in your fundraising, you need to really look into it. It will change your fundraising game. So what opportunities are you giving your donors? He did this study based on what Domino's did when Domino's changed their marketplace. It was pretty interesting. Next. Okay, so I have a professional crush on Tom. And I mean, just because I love communications and I love donor communications, and it's the heart of any annual fund, and I think this guy's great. So, loverizing, the lucrative difference a few well-chosen words will make. AKA, Tom says, indiscriminate donor hugging. How many people on your websites use the word I? Or how many of your executive directors or VPs say I in donor letters? Any of them? Some of them? You don't want to admit it?
Don't admit it.
Stop doing it! Stop! Tom says you test every communication piece. You, psychologically, is a very, very profound emotional trigger. Our donors give to us because they want to feel good, because they want to come along a cause, and they want to have an impact. They don't give because I, the executive VP, was able to do X, Y, and Z, or ABC org was able to do X, Y, and Z. They do it because they want to do it. You test everything. Give them opportunities. And he has this saying, which I think is kind of an ugly saying, about photo porn, he calls it, because he doesn't want you to be afraid to show the ugly. If we show all the happy frills, then the donors have nothing to do. And we need donors because we have things to do. So check him out. His website is there. Okay. So those were 3 of the many sessions I went to, because you go to 4 sessions a day over 3 days. It's crazy. But I wanted to spend some time talking to you about some of the keynotes, because they have forever changed the course of my professional path. First, this goofy guy named Seth. He's goofy. He knows he's goofy, so it's okay. I want to read you his bio, because I can't do it justice, and I want to read it to you. Godin is the author of 18 books that have been bestsellers around the world and have been translated into more than 35 languages. He writes about the post-industrial revolution, the way ideas spread, marketing, quitting, leadership, and most of all, changing everything. You might be familiar with his books, Linchpin, Tribes, The Dip, and Purple Cow. In addition to writing and speaking, Seth founded 2 internet companies, and he has a blog, which you can find by typing Seth into Google. It is one of the most popular blogs in the world. In 2013, he was inducted into the Direct Marketing Hall of Fame. So why do I care? Because as annual fundraisers, or whatever fundraiser you are, we use direct marketing all the time. And if you don't realize that's what direct mail is, please come talk to me afterwards. He's changed my game. I actually brought 2 of his books because I wanted you all to have a chance to read through them. And I just want to read one thing for you. And if I start to go over time, just go like over time. Shut up. Okay. What would make you impossibly good at your job? If your organization wanted to replace you with someone far better at your job than you, what would they look for? I think it's unlikely that they'd seek out someone willing to work more hours, or someone with more industry experience, or someone who could score better on a standardized test. No. The competitive advantage the marketplace demands is someone more human, connected, and mature. Someone with passion and energy, capable of seeing things as they are and negotiating multiple priorities as she makes useful decisions without angst. Flexible in the face of change, resilient in the face of confusion. All of these attributes are choices, not talents, and all of them are available to you. I choose art. Seth Godin says, we all have an opportunity to impact people's lives by giving away art. And he has forever changed my fundraising game. And I will get back to that in a minute, but let's move on. So the millennial generation, you love them, you hate them, but you better not neglect them. They are the future and they're coming up strong. And if we don't start paying attention to them, we're gonna miss the boat. Detroit fundraiser Richard Martin, who was honored by AFP International for lifetime service to the profession, spoke as one of the keynotes. He spoke of his time as a phone-a-thoner in his undergraduate years at the college and how at that moment, those professionals were paying such close attention to these young college students, it influenced his professional life forever. He became, out of college, a professional fundraiser. Very few of us do that. Probably if I polled the room, we all have had other careers. And that really challenged me. At the time, I was working for Brevard College, and I thought, wow, what an awesome opportunity I have to influence these careers so that they can impact lives, carry torches, and make change in the nonprofit sector. And I think that I still have that opportunity, even though I'm not at Brevard, and I would challenge all of you to seek out that opportunity as well. Hire an intern, okay? Who stinks at social media? Hire an intern over the summer. Can't pay them? That's okay. They'll work for free because they get to be on social media all the time. Let them impact your organization. They are game changers and they want to play. So look into that. So next, this little guy, isn't he so cute? You know what he's wondering? He's wondering, what are you going to do today to make a difference in his life tomorrow? And every session I went to, every keynote speaker I listened to, even Whoopi Goldberg, who, you know, either you love her or you hate her, impacted the answer I'm going to give that little guy. And that little guy is very important to me. He's 10 today, but he's my nephew. And everything I do with him in the back of my mind. So what am I doing? I'm asking you to ask yourself that question. So what am I doing since the conference? What are my next steps? How am I carrying the torch? Asheville is filled with really tiny nonprofits, a lot of them. And a lot of times they're ran by one, and if lucky, two staff people, the executive director, and the poor program person that gets everything else left over. They can't dream, let alone think of hiring fundraising professionals. And in my search for a new job after I resigned from Brevard, this need continued to come up over and over and over again. So last week I secured a contract to come alongside a teeny tiny nonprofit to show them how to raise funds, to walk alongside them to raise funds. But what's really cool is in year 2, I will hire an intern to show them how to do it. And in year 3, that intern will be hired by the organization to run their fundraising office. We're building sustainability in the Asheville nonprofit community. And I can tell you, I could not have done this without the courage and inspiration of this chapter, of this conference, of these books. If you have not yet joined AFP, do yourself a favor and write the check today. If you have, thank you, because you made this possible for me.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Karen Yagerhofer is the Director of Annual Fund at Hardy Hospital Foundation, and she is going to tell us a little bit about her experience with International Convention also.
Well, it's really interesting because there's some definite parallels from what Autumn spoke about to what I experienced, but ironically, there were a number of us here at the conference from this chapter, and luckily we got together for dinner one night because there's 4,000 people at this conference and we didn't run into each other very often. But actually I did run into Stephanie and Derek walking in the first day. It's like, okay, this is incredibly unusual that there's 4,000 people here and I'm walking in behind 2 people I actually knew into the conference. But I did this presentation to my board to thank them for allowing me to go to the AFP International Conference along with Debbie Rice. My perspective, like Autumn's, was annual fund. And Debbie did a perspective as being a board member and what she got out of the AFP International Conference, as well as being our president. So I attended 11 educational sessions, 3 keynote presentations, and then a dinner with the contingency from the AFP Western North Carolina chapter, which was just awesome to reconnect and hear about what they had done that day. So in honor of, I did this back in May, and in honor of David Letterman's recent retirement from the late night show, I paid homage to him by recapping my trip and my learnings with one of his famous top 10 lists. And like Autumn, thank you. Number 10, Tom Ahern told us to loverize our donors, and the difference between a few well-chosen words, what that difference will make. Treat the donor like a customer, and exercise indiscriminate donor hugging. So we both were must have been in that same session, but I never saw her. I was probably sitting on the floor. She was probably across the room. When we tell stories, they should be about our donors and not our organization, which I thought was really poignant. And the average donor is age 75, and 2 out of 3 donors are 55 or older. And respect that by using print type 14-point minimum. So yeah, I appreciate that with what I have to wear every day. The most important word we can use when speaking with donors is you. And your donors will never tire of hearing about how great they are. With your help, all these amazing things happened. So I too really was impacted by Tom Ahern's presentation. I can't get used to saying his name that way because I had a professor in college and she was Mrs. Ahern. So I'm convinced they're related, but they changed the pronunciation of their name. But and I loved how he paralleled fundraising with customer service, because I was in a retail management professional for over 25 years before I recreated myself and came into the nonprofit fundraising world. So I see so many parallels. My number 9 was don't be afraid to show the ugly. If there are no problems to solve, the donor doesn't feel needed. And the phrase poverty porn has stuck with me. People find a graphic, sad photograph more compelling. If they see happiness all over the place, they don't feel like there's a problem to solve and they're not needed. So I have actually impacted the work I do with annual fund mailings into using a little more graphic picture on a note card rather than a long letter with just words. So that's, and we think that's really impacted our giving. Number 8, we hear so much about millennials, and millennials is defined as born between 1980 and 2000. And while they are a very important segment to take notice, Penelope Burke was the speaker in that session. She was quick to point out at the height of baby boomer retirement will be 2025, and there'll be 10 new retirees for each one entering the workforce. So in 5 to 10 years, really everything just changes so dramatically. And no organization can function purely on millennials. Most millennials associate with a specific cause rather than an organization, and they often get involved at the suggestion of their peers, not necessarily their passion, but maybe their peers' passions. And donors over 80 years old will be loyal to the brand and willing to give unrestricted gifts, where millennials often give because, like I said, of peer influence, and often give only one time to a cause. They're wary of unrestricted giving because they'd like to know very specifically how their gift was used. Number 7, a donor should receive 7 touches a year. And those include a prompt thank you letter, which was in the form of a tax document, impact reports and experiences, an annual report, volunteer recognition cards, birthday cards. One speaker said rather than birthday cards, send a card on the anniversary of the donor's very first gift to the organization. Would really, a birthday card's easy, but that's really going kind of an extra mile and thinking a little differently and how important they are to your organization. Thanksgiving or National Philanthropy Day cards, and personal phone calls. Number 6, over-solicitation is defined by the owner as not being asked multiple times, but being asked to give again before they have learned how their first gift was used and how it impacted your organization. So you can ask them over and over and over again, but be sure you tell them before you ask them the second time that you told them what you did with their gift. Number 5, pictures are powerful. Put a human face on the product. And like I said, I went back immediately, and we're using real pictures of real people receiving treatment, and because I work for a hospital foundation, and that has really been important to us. Donor recognition events, number 4, one session mentioned 83% of the people that attend donor recognition events were more impacted and ready to give again. But don't be alarmed if attendance is low at your donor recognition event, because a lot of donors just like to be recognized by simply receiving the invitation. And donors feel very important when greeted at the door by a board member, and smaller, more intimate events tend to work much better. Number 3 out of 4 first-time donors don't make a second gift because of the donor experience. 75% of first-time donors say they could have given more. The cost to get a new donor is 10 times higher than the cost to retain one. So once you got them, you better do your best work to provide them a great customer experience. And when a donor gives a gift and moves from just attending an event, they have now made an investment in the organization in their eyes. So everything has changed for them, but often the nonprofit doesn't see it that way. They haven't necessarily made a financial gift, but they've come to an event. So in their eyes, they're now engaged. But you have to look at them from your foundation perspective that way. They are often not on our radar because it was just one gift. And number 2, I was so jazzed that Wayne Olson was going to be speaking at Philanthropy Institute when I went to the International Conference, because he was talking about donor relations the Disney way and how we can look at the success of Walt Disney and how we can apply this philosophy and to our fundraising efforts. And I have been to Disney's professional management customer service courses in Orlando a long time ago when I worked for Jockey, the underwear manufacturer. They sent me, and it's probably one of the greatest things I've ever experienced. So when I saw that Wayne was going to be speaking about the Disney experience, I was really, really excited, and equally excited that he was then going to do that same presentation for us. So, and while a hospital for us is dramatically different than Disney World, the customer service principles still apply. You're making a memory, a lasting memory. And some of Walt Disney's sage advice included treat people with honor and make a story out of anything. And for those of you who were at Philanthropy Institute, he definitely talked about that day. So who you are as an organization matters as much as your knowledge, and making memories is the business. A donor will give when the emotional satisfaction of giving is greater than keeping that money. The guest or donor may not always be right, but they are always the guests or the donor. If you want to hear more of what Wayne has to say, I was pitching this for our board to come to Philanthropy Institute. And number one, keynote speaker Whoopi Goldberg left us with these words of wisdom, and that was, please don't serve chicken at your fundraising events. So that was just kind of funny to put in at the end, but she was really passionate about that. She talked about that a lot. Yeah, she was really an interesting keynote speaker. But anyway, it was quite an event. But anyway, thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
All right, I'd like to take just a few minutes and have a few other people who have been to international conventions say a few words. I can't even begin that without picking on Annie and asking Annie Fritchner to speak about her experiences, if you will, a little bit as to what's the most important thing you get when you go to international convention.
So the conference is it's a spectacular experience, but it is overwhelming. There's no question about that. But when you get in a room of literally, we were lucky because we were on the Eastern Seaboard Corridor this year. The attendance is always higher, so it's just about over 4,000 people. And you cannot imagine what the energy is like when we're all in one room together, learning together and sharing experiences. I mean, you can go tired, cranky, broke, unhappy, but the jazz that you're with all these people, and frankly, I get it when I come every month. It's like, you all know exactly what I'm going through because you're going through it too. Well, 4,000 of your colleagues going through it too is pretty powerful. And this year we had about 10 to 12% of them were from all over the world: Denmark, Japan, South Africa, Brazil, huge contingent in Mexico. We're expanding as a chapter, trying to do this more internationally. So our speakers are being asked to relate to an international market, and it's very interesting to find out what the issues are in other countries, not just here. For dollar, it's expensive, but it's one of the best, most important investments that you make in your own education or ask your organization to make on your behalf for your continuing ed, in my opinion. Every year I've come back to you, I've said, you all submit to speak, and you should submit to speak. I'm guessing that the deadline has passed for this coming year's in Boston. But next year it'll be open in not too long. So please really consider what you're doing that's unique, and consider applying to be a speaker, because 10% of the speakers at the conference need to be first-time presenters. Your topic may have been presented first, so try it out here on the chapter and tweak it. But you can get on the speaking list, and it's not just all about the big names, to be honest with you. We really encourage people to go to a variety of sessions, because you all have as much to say being in the trenches as other people do who've been in it for years, especially from a younger perspective and a more techno-savvy perspective. So,
How many conventions have you been to, Annie?
Probably about 15.
Okay.
And there also, you can apply, I think now is the time for you to apply to take a leadership position in AFP International. We have 33,000 members worldwide. We are the largest organization. And you all can be on these committees. I served on the education committee, which helped plan the speakers for the conferences. And you have to rest every so often. Alex has been to some of those as a leader in the chapter, and some of you all have. But I really encourage you to get involved and to, be on the boards.
Yeah, Annie, what's the commitment for something like that? Is there a lot of traveling, or how does that work?
It is. And you know, it's funny because I would say this to you as a consultant to you and your organization. AFP just is the worst about thanking its donors. I mean, worst. But yeah, you pay your own way. So if you're going to be on a committee, unless you're chosen for the board of directors, you pay to go to the conference and you pay to go to your committee work. For example, being on the education planning committee, we were required to be in DC for 1 weekend a month in June. You paid for your own hotel or found somebody to bunk in with and paid for your transportation. They provided meals. And you were locked up in a room for about 13 hours a day going through hundreds and hundreds of speaker applications. So only if you're a board member will they pay for your transportation. So it can be pricey. Consequently, a lot of people are from larger organizations, which is why we need to have folks from smaller organizations be on some of these committees and boards.
And some of the time, you will find that your CEOs or executive directors will be very supportive of this in times when you might think they might not be. But go ahead and think about it. Okay, Stephanie, how about it? Can you give us just a few words about what your experience was like? Yeah, you have to stand up.
I'll really just echo what Karen and Autumn shared. I had a focus on annual fund and stewardship sessions as well. And our first direct mail appeal that we sent a couple months ago, we applied a lot of these things that you've heard, using the word "you," showing the ugly. We sort of have fallen into the habit as a healthcare organization. It's sort of hard for us to part with what's really marketing language, talking about all the things that we do so well. But again, the donors need to feel needed. So we shared a story of someone's loss without hospice care and what that looked like. And we had a goal of $10,000 for that piece, and we've exceeded $25,000.
Wow.
It works.
All right, anybody else who I'm not picking on that's been to the International Convention want to say a little something? Yeah, sure is under the table. How about it? What do you think?
Well, I think Erica and I were going to say something about membership. So is it time for that, or you still want?
I'm still on International
Okay.
Convention, Sharon.
All right. Well, I was the Chamberlain Scholar the year before Autumn, so I felt really comfortable encouraging her to do certain things and how she should how she might want to lay out her time, because that first year that I went, I was absolutely overwhelmed by it. There was so much to learn and so many wonderful qualified speakers, but I wouldn't trade anything for it, and so I begged and got to go back again this past year in Baltimore. I went to high school near there, so that was I'm an Army brat, so I was able to get that done. But it's just that this organization has been, AFP has been just really, really great. I thought my perception of when I officially became a fundraiser in 2008, I had done for years, been the United Way coordinator, gotten a team up for March of Dimes. This was my 35th year. So I knew kind of how to do grassroots, but I didn't know how to do official fundraising. And so my perception of coming into this organization, I talked to John Pfaff, who's now retired, And I said, okay, what do I need to do? And he said, you need to join AFP. And I was like, what? What's that? I didn't even know there was an organization for fundraising professionals. And so fast forward since 2008, and I thought that it would be, you know, why would this be a good group if they're all about, oh, well, you can't have her, she's mine, or you're raising money for your own causes, so why would this be a good group to be part of? And it wasn't anything like that. It was, oh, Fern, mentoring people, because she's been there, she's done that. It was people like Alex who know where all the bodies are buried. You know, it has really, really been just a phenomenal thing being part of this chapter, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate each of you for what you contribute. So.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to make one comment about, I've only been to one international convention. The thing that I learned that really struck me was just how good every one of you really is. You know, you think, oh my gosh, so-and-so has a big shop, they're bringing in millions of dollars. Folks, it's just zeros. And the expertise that you have in your job is shown to those of us who kind of watch it over and over again. And when you go to a big conference like that, you begin to realize, wait a minute, most of this I already do. Yeah, you come away with 10 points or 20 points that are really good. But the power in it to me is really finding your niche in a larger group like that and understanding just how good you are. So yeah, it's expensive. I'm hoping to go to Boston this year. The experience is so overwhelming that you really need to do it more than once. But I would urge everybody to take part in it. And I love the fact that primarily our two speakers here today really had some meaty points that we can take in other things that we do. So I particularly appreciate that. Now, did you all have something you wanted to do on membership? All right, time for that.
So we just wanted to, the AFP International has been surveying our members and new members, and some of you guys have maybe seen that or participated in that, and we encourage you to do so if you get another email from them, because we are constantly learning and we're constantly wanting to you guys to be getting a lot out of your membership. So we just wanted to kind of real quick go over some of the membership benefits. Did you want to start with one of them?
You can do the benefits.
Okay. So, as you guys know, and because many of you are members here, the AFP chapter can provide you with connection to the tools and resources and best practices to meet industry needs. I want to know how many of you guys have actually gone to the AFP International website and used their tools and hot topics. Show of hands. I use it all the time. So if you're not going on to the international website and logging in, you have to log in with your membership ID. Definitely do it. I think it has some great, up to the minute, a lot of the people that these people have been speaking about have given their presentations and whatnot. Those are available to you online. We're able to connect with leaders amongst our own community. I've had the best networking experience just coming to these meetings and sitting next to the people at my table and gleaning information from who's doing what in the community right now, and how can we get knowledge from our peers. That's been one of the best things. Mentoring. I have been really apprehensive about becoming a mentor because I felt like a young person, but I had 10 years of experience, so this is my first year as a mentor, so I would recommend that you guys try it out, and it's been really helpful. And so talk to Fern. And and just expanding your toolkit with best practices and new techniques. Having these AFP monthly keynote speakers is one of the biggest perks, along with Philanthropy Institute, which we just had successfully this past July. And that's one of the places where a lot of folks can't afford perhaps to join and become a full member, but we've seen a lot of folks get a lot out of Philanthropy Institute by attending that, but the learning just continues throughout the year with the membership. And raising your industry profile through membership. It's definitely a resume builder, and the earning of continuing education credits through the monthly meetings and or Philanthropy Institute is something that you can put on your resume and build towards working for your CFRE. So that is the basics for professional membership.
Okay. And then also, you may have noticed Mark Goldstein is filming members. If you miss a meeting, he'll give you the link and you can see what you missed. So don't ever feel like if you get sick or something comes up, you're not missing out. Mark's got you covered. What I wanted to share was that it's not just about, right now we have a $50 coupon, and International does this twice a year, $50 off of a professional membership, and that most of us would fall into that category. And that is normally $250 plus $25 for our local chapter, so a total of $275, so it'd be $225 with that discount. It's good through the end of November because they do it in conjunction with National Philanthropy Day, which is celebrated then. But there are also other amazing opportunities. So those millennials that you know, we have young professional memberships for those age 30 and younger. $75 a year, and that includes local dues. 75, all inclusive. We have retired memberships. Maybe you're in the prime of your life and you're slowing down, but you're still offering your services. I think that's $100 a year. Yeah, 75 plus 25 for the local chapter, so 100 a year. So there are other ways. It's not all inclusive. You don't have to work for a huge organization. Those of you, I think we had some Dixon Hughes Goodman gentlemen here. They could have an associate membership. The discounted coupon would also apply to you, to the professional category or to the associate membership. But then sometimes, especially, and Autumn alluded to this, we have a lot of really small organizations in the area. Or if you meet certain stipulations, and you can pick up one of these to see if your organization qualifies. It's $150 a year, and that includes your chapter dues. So now the discount coupon doesn't work on this type of membership because they're already discounting it. But $150 a year, the difference is if you have a professional membership or an associate membership, it belongs to the individual. If you have a small or a large organization membership, it belongs to the organization. So if you have turnover or whatever. So I think AFP has done a really great job of being sensitive to the fact that we all can't be professional members and we all need a way to belong. And of course, you can participate in any of the programming, you just pay a slightly higher fee if membership's just not in the cards for you.
Sharon, am I not correct in the key thing on that organizational membership at 150 is that your budget needs to be less than $1 million a year?
Right, and that's why I said I've got all
Okay.
this, and you have
Just understand that. Now, think about
so
that.
many FTEs.
Like Autumn was saying, our figures are 1,500 nonprofits in Buncombe County, and about 850 of those are actually out chasing money. All the rest are just tiny organizations trying to get started.
Right.
So they could all, benefit from this.
And most of them probably are like I was, not even aware of this organization's existence. So it's really, AFP just builds an even better community here in Western North Carolina. So we were talking about it at the board meeting, it's really surprising. We've had people traveling from South Carolina, Tennessee, coming to our programming, and we're really, really thrilled and honored about that. But you guys, you know, whether you're joining for the first time, renewing, whatever, you're making this happen. You're making AFP WNC sustainable, and we greatly appreciate that. Annie?
I believe you also have to be a member to receive the Chamberlain Scholarship, as I've heard.
Right. Okay, thank you very much to you two. I'm going to make a couple of other points, and that is that this luncheon, we used to say, well, I'm paying $16 or $20 for my lunch. No, you're paying $16 or $20 for the program. Lunch is included. And then, so that's our main focus. The second thing is we have a monthly webinar on the first Thursday of the month with internationally known speakers on the web, taped, that you come and for just a pittance, it's $10 to come to that. And then thirdly, we're at least working on a program for executive directors, and the executive directors were at least trying to figure out a way to have a bi-monthly luncheon program here at the Renaissance for executive directors only. So that's one of the things we want to do for our executive director group. Myra.
I'm sorry, I forgot to announce this earlier. Those of you that are in healthcare, related healthcare organizations know that Karen McNeil Miller is going to be retiring from the KB Reynolds Charitable Trust here in the next couple of months. So I am serving on that search committee, and that's going to be a competitive national search, but we certainly have people in the region that would be qualified. So I'll send the link for AFP, but it is on the KB Reynolds website. Shortly after, in September, so that closes the end of September. Z. Smith Reynolds Charitable Trust, which is a human service-oriented part of the Reynolds Trust, that executive position is also going to be open, and that one will be dovetailing the KB search. So if you know someone for KB, you can have them contact me.
Thank you. Okay, we're at the end of our time. I will tell you that normally the president will tell you about the speaker next month in glowing terms. That's a little bit awkward. Apparently, I'm giving the talk next month. And so I thought I would tell you, it'll dovetail nicely. We had a lot of focus on annual fund today. I do a lot of work with major giving. And it struck me here in the last 6 months that all of us spend a lot of time meeting with people, and we're coming into a political season now. And a lot of the times we have to get through some rather awkward turf before we can talk about what our goals and mission are. And so the title of my talk is Dealing with Religion and Politics in Major Gift Work. And I will leave you with this teaser. So my board member told me that he had somebody he wanted me to go call on for a gift. Not surprisingly, he wouldn't go with me. So I called up and got the reluctant agreement because I knew that my donor prospect had gone to my board member for a gift, and so it was time for payback, right? So I go to see this guy, and there wasn't a whole lot of chit-chat because he obviously didn't want to do a whole lot of chit-chat. But so I was trying to warm him up just a little bit, and he looked at me and he said, look, the only reason you're here is because Joe asked me to see you, and I know you want money. And it's really hard for me to figure out what kind of gift I'm going to give you because of the way Obama has ruined the economy. You do agree that Obama has ruined the economy? That's my teaser for next week. Thank you all for coming.
Okay.